The house at 17, Crowley Street, was a place of nightmares. For decades, the locals avoided it like a plague. It stood isolated, shrouded by twisted, dead trees, whose gnarled branches clawed at its rotting roof like desperate fingers. Windows, shattered and blackened, stared out like empty sockets, and no light ever flickered behind the grime-covered panes. Rumors clung to it like mold, strange noises, vanished neighbors, cries swallowed by the night. But Caleb didn't care. A struggling writer hungry for his breakthrough, he sought darkness to conquer it with words, desperate enough to move in despite the warnings. From the first step across the creaking threshold, Caleb felt the house's breath on his skin. Slow, deliberate, heavy. The stale air tasted of dust and something metallic, as if old blood soaked into the walls. His flashlight flickered weakly against the deep shadows that lurked just beyond the beam. The floorboards groaned beneath him like the house was protesting. His footsteps echoed hollowly through the endless corridors, lined with peeling wallpaper that curled at their edges, revealing blackened, moldy plaster beneath. In the silence, faint whispers stirred, voices too low to understand, scraping like nails over a chalkboard. That first night, sleep evaded Caleb. His bed creaked and shifted, the walls whispered his name, soft but urgent, like a lover begging for attention. Then came the scratching, slow, rhythmic, crawling just behind the plaster, beneath the wallpaper. His heart pounded in his chest as he pressed his ear to the wall, hearing a faint, wet breathing. It was not his imagination. Days blurred into restless nights, Caleb's notes filled with frantic sketches, tangled symbols, half-formed faces twisted in torment. He tore at the wallpaper in a frenzy, fingers raw and bleeding, exposing strange markings scratched into the plaster in dark, curling lines that seemed to writhe before his eyes. One evening, under the jaundiced glow of his flashlight, Caleb found a hidden door behind a loosened panel. Its wood was warped and stained, the edges lined with rotted moss. His breath hitched as he grasped the rusted handle, pulling it open to reveal a narrow staircase spiraling downward into an abyss of darkness. The stale air grew colder with each step he descended, frost forming on his skin, breath clouding in the blackness. The silence was absolute, suffocating. So thick Caleb could almost hear his own heartbeat. His flashlight flickered violently as he reached the bottom. There was a room. The stench hit him like a fist, decay, iron, and something far worse. A sickly sweet scent like rotten honey mixed with rot and rust. Dim light revealed dozens of grotesque dolls hanging from the ceiling by frayed strings. Their bodies were stitched grotesquely from scraps of flesh and bone, their shattered glass eyes leaking dark, viscous fluid. Some moved slightly, twitching as if breathing. The whispers exploded into screams, a cacophony of agony and despair that hammered into Caleb's skull, drowning out his thoughts. He staggered back, but the door slammed shut above, sealing him in darkness. He was not alone. One doll dropped from the ceiling, landing at his feet. Caleb stared, frozen, as its shattered eyes began to bleed tears of thick black ichor. Then, impossibly, the doll's mouth moved, whispering in a voice barely audible, "Stay with us. Stay forever." Panic erupted within Caleb. He turned to flee, but the walls shifted, breathing, closing in on him like a living prison. The floor beneath him pulsed and throbbed like a heartbeat. The doll's glass eyes all fixed on him, unblinking, merciless. He tried to scream, but his voice was swallowed. The room spun, the ceiling melting into a vortex of endless darkness. The last thing Caleb saw was a pale, twisted face of a doll, staring at him with human eyes, cold, empty, and full of hunger. The house at 17 Crowley Street claimed another whisper, another soul trapped forever within its cursed walls.